Hey guys, fresh out of the shower, but I haven't shaved. Don't ask. I shave when I have to. Typically, This is like the last stage. I'll probably shave later on today. It's like a sweet spot of like soft fur that doesn't hurt to shave. Because I have sensitive skin. So don't give me too much shit. And this is, again, just out of the shower. And the reason I'm doing this is because today's a big packing day. I'm going to be really busy today. And I know myself well enough to know that I'm not going to get back to this to do videos later. So I also missed my review of Deception 4 yesterday, as I had promised. So I'm going to give you 2 reviews today. 2 videos, 2 reviews. But I'm going to start with Deception 4. So Deception 4, Blood Ties, is technically the 5th in the series. The first one came out in 98 or 99 for the PlayStation 1 called Tecmo's Deception. It was clearly a Japanese game. It had JRPG elements as far as how you level up your weapons and your character, and the house that you're in. The story is very kind of loose and Japanese and so forth. No voice acting, all text. Very primitive animations, but the core was the gameplay. The story was very loose. There was a princess, king, and a queen, and the father is killed, and the evil queen frames the daughter, and then the whole kingdom's after the daughter, and then this dark power takes her and says, "I will save you," and saved her at the last moment from her execution. And might have been a gentleman at that point, I don't remember. But for later installments, it was always a female. Took him or her to the castle, showed him the ropes, and said, "We're going to lure people here, and if you want to gain more power, the easiest way is to kill them, and that'll give the castle more power and you more power. But if you want to create some minions, monsters, you can take their souls and funnel that into there. So you can create creatures, you can create traps, and there's your thing. And then ultimately, we want you to get as powerful as you can, so you can prove that you're innocent and get revenge, and they're manipulating him or her the whole way through. And ultimately, you find out that Satan, the devil himself, has manipulated you into resurrecting him because of your desperate circumstances. And, yeah. No wonder they pulled it off U.S. shelves. Because back then, it was, that was, we can't handle Alice Cooper or Marilyn Manson, so this shit's gotta go. Great game. My best friend Melissa gave that game to me to borrow in 1999. She was like, "You have to play this." I said, "Alright, whatever." But she and I were such good friends. If she's saying I have to do something, it's with good reason. She's never going to throw something at me that says, you might like this. No, this is smart. She's like, "No, Jim, you play this." I've joked about it many times, but I want to illustrate this to you. The original game was so addictive, and so just one more, lure just one more group of villagers, just one more of this. I slept as little as I had to. I ate out of pizza boxes. I only got up to go to the bathroom if I absolutely had to. I ended up losing a job, and to be fair, that job was on its way out at the time. So it wasn't like this game was the only reason I was losing that job. And again, this is also over 15 years ago. So, different fella than the guy you're seeing here. So, I was dating someone at the time. It had just started. I didn't call her. And again, to be fair, that relationship probably wasn't going to go anywhere. However, the game was one of the top 3 factors why that job got lost and why that girl and I didn't see each other anymore. And I played it for well over a week solid. And I mean all day and all night, every day, for over 7 days. How many games do you know of that aren't online or have no multiplayer, that have no cutscenes really to speak of, not really, that you can sit and play based on the game mechanic alone for that long? And that was the first Deception. The second and the third one kind of flew under my radar. because not long after that, about a year, less than a year after that, I was in the Marine Corps, and I had rebought a copy of the game as soon as I got my hands on a PlayStation again, but I didn't even know there was a second and a third one. This is when the internet was just getting started, so I didn't have the means to search. Pawn shops didn't have it. We didn't have Funko Land where I was at. It was in, the whole GameStop thing was just happening. It was a weird time to, to be collecting at all. So I didn't even know about those. And I would still, about once a year, play the game for a couple days, but I'd be more responsible about it. And it never lost its luster for me. Fast forward to probably, I'd always kind of check in on it. I'd heard about Trapt about 2004. And I forgive me, I don't know the exact year it came out, but I'm pretty sure it was before 2003. I'm almost positive of that because I want to say that I heard about it in 2004. So, at least 10 years ago, alright? I'd heard about it. And this is how I found out there was 2 more sequels plus that one. And it was weird because Trapt, T-R-A-P-T, was a PS2 game, took all the gameplay mechanics, was very much a deception game, and I think they were going for rebranding to try and see if they could slip it past people. I guess they were afraid that that game would get swept under the rug in America again, but, in the time that had passed, there was so much going on with 9/11. No one's going to care about this game where you torture people with traps and shit. But at that point, I was made aware of it, and I was like, I'm going to get these games. And I just never got around to it until 2012. 2012, I had been working for a large corporation. I'm not going to name them here. Nothing negative to say. It's just, I don't want to make it about that. I'd lost my job. Structural changes were made. Shit happens. And in order to survive, I cashed out my 401k. It had paid some bills off and got myself in a relatively comfortable position. Unemployment was coming. It was going to be enough to kind of make ends meet. And I took the opportunity to start the thatrule.com site and a couple other things, hoping that they would become, in the time it would take, unemployment to run out for that to be full businesses. That wasn't the case, but they're definitely going very strong, just not, full income. And during that time, because I had a little bit of extra money, my brain, one day I was watching Angry Video Game Nerd, and I was like, why am I watching this guy play these games? I should be playing them. But my brain said, instead of getting a decent controller for your computer and using the emulators you already have, let's spend a ton of money and get all these old systems. So I did. I bought a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, the Dreamcast, the Genesis, the GameCube with the Game Boy player, Atari, and that was that. And a bunch of games because I wanted the cartridges, and on some level I always will. Although I find myself getting away from that, but I'm digressing. The point being that it was that during that fanatical, splurge and urge to get, these games, I had to have the entire Deception series, and I have them all on my shelf right in a row. I love them. And I played Trapt. That one was 2 weeks. And it has New Game Plus, just like the other one does. And it expanded on everything. Trapt went from a first-person view to a third-person view. The story was relatively the same, but a little bit more involved. Not a whole lot. And just like all of its predecessors, each time you lure people to the castle, you get a little bit of story behind why they're there. The idea is that if you're going to kill these people, you should have some remorse for why they're there. And usually in their death throes, they'll tell you why they were, what their real thing was. Like sometimes they're like, I love you. And you're like, whatever. But at least I say that. The traps were more varied. It was easier to power them up the way you wanted to, rather than the game kind of forcing you into certain traps. So the story made a little more sense. The animation was a huge improvement. Gameplay was smoother. but it took nothing away from the experience at all that I could see. In the first game, you could get like ghouls, like zombies and bats and dragons and stuff. And those were fun, but they were good for one hit usually, and they were hard to aim. The traps I found to be way more satisfying, so I wasn't surprised they took those away. And now, 10 years later, we're given Deception 4, which technically is the 5th in the series. Alright? So, here it is. I have the Vita version. I will be getting the PS3 version as soon as I can. Obviously, I don't have the means to do that just right now. Couple things about it. It's a very similar game, and I know I'm 10 minutes in, I'm just starting the review, guys, I'm sorry, but I want to give you the backstory and how much I know about this series, and how good it is, how important it is that if you haven't played any of them before, don't worry about the first 3. Trapt is available on the PSN for PS3 as a PS2 classic. Okay? Get it. If you're apprehensive about this, which I can understand, it's a new thing, and some people are like, oh, it's Japanese. I'm not a big Japanese game guy, alright? I know it's got some quirks to it, whatever. Spend the $10, get Trapt, T-R-A-P-T. Play that game. If you don't like that, hey, you're only out $10. You know, you probably got some trophies out of it. I think they're up for trophy support now. I don't know. The point being, it's a great game. I love that game. And then if you do like that, drop the coin on this, because they need to keep making these. So, really, I'm going to speak from the Trapt angle, because that was the starting off point. Improves on every aspect of gameplay. You can now have customizable controls, which you'd be like, well, that's every game, Jim. The thing is, all the games before it have had very specific controls. But this time, it is going out of its way to encourage and force you to do trap combos. So I could have guy walking along, I hit him with a spring trap, so like the floor comes up and he flies, and then I have a swinging axe hit him, and then drop a boulder on him. Pop, pop, pop. Or I do that and push him into like an electrified fence on the wall or something. And you get more wharl or money to get more traps, and there's all this stuff, and they're categorizing traps in different ways now, where it's, you know, blunt force, or brutal, or humiliating, and there's all kinds of different things that if you do the combinations right, you get lots and lots of in-game money, and it makes for a challenge. It makes you that much more invested in trying to better yourself each time. Excuse me. So far, the story, I haven't finished it yet, because I'm taking my time, I'm savoring it, with good reason, because, but so far the story is better in many ways. It definitely plays out the way a handheld RPG would, where the cutscenes are, like, sparsely animated, although the beginning is, like, full-blown anime. It's kind of cool. It's got a really cool style to it. It's easy to follow. This time, instead of like 1 or 2 minions that are kind of tag along, you've got 3. 1 to represent each type of trap, and they're helping you along with challenges. And again, there's more engagement to it. Interesting to note, from the Vita and the PS3 version, within the game itself, there's a native cross-save. Like, you don't even have to use PS Plus for this. It's a native cross-save. Those of us that pre-ordered got 2 extra traps. They aren't crazy awesome, but more traps is more traps, and the code was universal for both PS3 and Vita. So the one code from the Vita got me the DLC for both versions of the game, which was like, that's awesome. Which is not much more encouragement to buy the game. After my Port Station 4 video, I gotta be honest, I really hope they port this to PS4. Because there's a ton of people that will not get a chance to play this game again until they make a new one, otherwise. And I realize I'm not talking a whole lot about the gameplay itself. It's difficult to describe. But think of it like this, as like a puzzle game. You know, Tetris, you're in a room, blocks are dropping, and your goal is to do this. Like, your end goal is something. You're in a room with 2 to 4 other people or a boss. You can place traps in any combination that you want, on the fly or in advance. and your goal is to kill them in as many creative ways as possible to get as much points as you can until the next wave of people comes. Repeat, rinse, repeat. And it's just, you have the castle, so you could, within game, you're not stuck in one room. You can run room to room, you can do this, you can do that. And as the story progresses, you end up in other locations, so it's not real stale. It forces you to do other stuff. There's way more environmental traps than there used to be. So there's traps that are indigenous to certain areas and rooms and stuff like that. This game it's addicting, it's fun, it puts like kind of an evil grin on your face. It appeals to the puzzle game crowd, it appeals to the third-person crowd, it appeals to the Japanese crowd, and even a little bit to the RPG crowd because of the leveling up and all that stuff. So if you like any of these sort of games, and maybe you have a little sadistic streak in you, like if you are prone to having bad days at work or at home or what have you, and you like a way to get out some of that energy, I'm telling you, the Deception series is a great way to do it. It's healthy, you're killing people on a screen, and it's a satisfying thing. And it does take you on a bit of a moral journey of like, why are you doing this? Although the character in this one, right off the bat, they make no bones. This is the daughter of Satan, so she doesn't have a whole lot of conflict in her. It's just, let's go, let's get this shit done, son. So, game is the gameplay is extremely well done. The control customization that you have is to make sure that you're comfortable doing what you're doing. I'm going to be honest, stick with the default because it does make the most sense intuitively at first. You've got, you can lock onto an enemy, you can set up what order the traps are going to go in, you can always reset the order and stuff like that. There's a ton more control for in the moment, so you're less likely to trip traps out of sequence and things like that. So, the highest possible recommendation, because this is the 5th game in a series that is woefully underrated. It takes all the gameplay elements I thought were already perfect and that somehow made them better. The animation is smoother, the presentation is solid, the story is better. It's the story that I wanted to see from day one. This whole, like, here's a person who doesn't know what the fuck's going on, and we're going to manipulate them into doing this. Well, now it's finally like they know what they're doing, so it's way more fun for me. Because now it's like, look, I'll admit I'm a sadistic guy. I'm like, fuck it, let's cause some pain, whatever. I enjoy the idea of these are bad people and I'm going to fuck their day up. That's it. I'm not going to, some random kid on the street, I'm not going to hurt anybody. But in a game where, you're benefiting the devil, why make any bones about it? That's my point. It's like, let's just get an evil motherfucker to help an evil motherfucker, and let's have the gameplay reflect that. And this fires on all cylinders in that regard. I'm going to give it, and you guys are going to hate me, a 9.5 out of 10. The 0.5, again, this is going to sound dumb, is because for as late in the life cycle as this is for the PS3, it probably should have been on the PS4. And it's going to hurt its market. And that's not a rating for the game itself. I understand that. When I look at a rating for a game, I'm looking at the gameplay, the packaging, the story, and I look at the developer themselves and the choices they're making outside of the game, because there are some dumb things. Like the next game I'm going to review today, there's a port issue there as well. Not a huge one, very small, but hoping that happens. And again, looking at like Vita versus PS3 versus PS4, it's very clear that you can release games on the same system. And it doesn't matter if PS3, PS4, doesn't seem to matter because they are two different things. So, that's the only detriment I'm seeing, is that it may not get the audience it deserves, and it is kind of doomed to stagnate unless they port it to the PS4. So, 9.5 out of 10, only because it's not available on the PS4. Other than that, the gameplay is absolute perfection. So much fun. Love it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening to me set up this long review. Another one's coming that'll be a lot short, and it's going to be something also current. You're getting 2 new games in the same day! Keep on grinding! What?